Yes.
Yeah, we're on page 1254. Verse 21. I mentioned to you the business of Hadassah, Esther. So I asked my Rebbetzin about it. And from there on out, she's only Esther. Hadassah is not repeated. Now, there's a Maral who explains the symbolism, and a Hadass is green. And green is midway on the color spectrum between the hot colors and the cold colors, between the reds and the blues. And it says she found favor in the eyes of all who looked at her. So because she was in the middle, she could relate to all aspects of the spectrum. And that's symbolic of the fact that everyone who looked at her saw themselves in her. I saw this once as a description of the Jewish people also, but I thought I remembered where it was and I couldn't find it. The land of Israel is very small geographically, but has a tremendous variety of climes. You have snow-covered mountains, and you have the deepest point on earth. You have a salt sea and a fresh sea. You have a long seashore, and you have plains, and you have deserts. And I'm told it's possible that sometime in history there were also tropical jungles as well. That has to do with rainfall and that sort of thing. So, and the idea was this: we are supposed to be ultimately, in times of Mashiach, the hub of all humanity, and all humanity is going to find its inspiration and its relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu from us. There need to be Jews who can relate, some Jews, for each person who will come from any part of the world, anywhere he comes from. Now you imagine that there was no desert in Eretz Israel. Anybody who comes living in the desert comes to the Jew and says, "You don't understand me. You don't understand where I'm coming from, what my life is like. You don't understand the dynamics of my life." This way, in a very small piece of geography, enough variety that there'll be Jews, some Jews somewhere in the land of Israel that will imitate so similar to what's being said about Esther here. She occupied a position where she could relate to everyone because she was sort of in the midst of all the important characteristics. Now, that's her general character. Esther is a name for the role that she plays in this story, as you will see, Mitzvah Hashem, when we get to the end. Okay, so we're at verse 21. In those days, while Mordechai was sitting at the king's gate, Bigsan and Seresh, two of the king's servants of the guardians of the threshold, this is the bodyguard, so they had access to the king, became angry and plotted to lay hands on the king Ahasuerus. And they could do it because they had security clearance. The plot became known to Mordechai. He told it to Queen Esther, and Esther told it to the king in Mordechai's name. The matter was investigated and corroborated, and they both were hanged on the gallows. It was recorded in the book of Chronicles in the king's presence. Now, I mentioned yesterday in passing, sort of flippantly, nobody knew who Esther was, and the king wanted to know, and that's why he gave relaxing of taxes, and why he gave gifts, and why he pulled the maidens in, and so on and so on. One commentary that my wife saw says she didn't just keep silent. That would be a little hard. The king says, "Who are you?" "Sorry, not telling you." Now, it could be because she charmed him. But this commentator said, she said, "I was a foundling and a Sufi. I myself don't know my parents. I was an abandoned baby and they took me in." So now it's not going to do any good to question her. She's not holding it back. But then they won't account for the assembling of the of the maidens again, because that, I told you, was to frighten her into admitting. So that part is going to be difficult. But the publicity, sure, somebody could know who abandoned her. Somebody could know, that way. Anyway, I don't think it explains the reassembling of the maidens. Fine. Chapter 3. Here today we're going to see something also absolutely astonishing. It's a symptom of Achashverosh's weakness. After these things, the king Achashverosh promoted Haman, son of Hadassah, the Agagite, and advanced him. Now, I told you that the genealogy here is very important. Agag was the king of Amalek. When King Saul attacked the Amalekites, Agag was the king. So Haman comes from Amalek. Now Esther comes from Binyamin, which is where Shaul comes from. And she has the blood of Shaul. I told you that. That's why Mordechai wanted to hide it, right? And who is it that was sent out to destroy the Amalekites? Shaul. So Esther's ancestor was sent to destroy Haman's ancestor. And Mordechai's ancestor also was sent to Haman's ancestor. So this is a historical replay. Why are there remaining Amalekites? Because Saul had mercy on Agag, the king, and let him live the night. And the next morning, Shmuel came to him and said, "What did you do? You kept Agag alive, and you kept animals from the stock of the Amalekites. You're supposed to kill everything and everyone." And he makes an excuse, so he defends himself, and Shmuel doesn't accept it. God doesn't accept it. He's rejected. And then Shmuel kills Agag straight out, but there was a night in between. And in that in between, he was with some woman or other, and that's how the line of Amalek was continued. So here you have it, a replay, hundreds of years later. This is something that happens in Jewish history a lot. Only you have to know some of the secret lore behind the scenes to know that it's a replay. So that's why when you read the whole story, if you know where they're coming from, and you know that this was an outstanding problem for hundreds of years, and if you know the verse in the Torah which says that God's name, his throne will not be complete until the score of Amalek will be finished, so then you see this book as one episode in a much larger drama, much larger historical drama. Okay. So, Chashverosh promoted him. Now, if Memuchan is Haman, then you understand very well. After these things, where he's now in a very good position and everything worked out well, and he thinks, when I had the problem with Vashti, I didn't know what to do. It was Memuchan who gave me the advice how to deal with the problem. So he says, okay. He was very useful, very intelligent, very clever, and very, Okay, hold on one second here. Where is this at? Let me do a procedure here. It'll take me a minute. Okay. All right, that should be okay. Now, so he advanced him, set a seat above all the officers who were with him, meaning in our terminology, he made him prime minister. And furthermore, all the king's servants at the king's gate would bow down and prostrate themselves before Haman, for this is what the king had commanded concerning him. Okay? The king made a law. You come into the vicinity of Haman, down! And the book says, But Mordechai would not bow down or prostrate himself. Now you got to picture this. This is the capital. And this is the square in front of the palace of the king. And Haman is there and everybody's bowing down and Mordechai isn't. What would you expect to happen? Shoot him! Violating the king's order in front of the palace of the king. And the guards are there. Shoot him! Watch what happens. This is astonishing. So the king's servants at the king's gate said to Mordechai, why is it? Why do you disobey the king's command? Come, let's have a powwow, you and I. Let's talk things over. Could you imagine that with the Kaiser of Germany, with Putin? What are you talking about? Talk it over? Oh yeah, we got to talk it over. Finally, when they said to him day by day, and he did not heed them, they kept asking him. They told Haman to see whether Mordechai's words would avail, for he had told them that he was a Jew. He's a conscientious objector. He says, my religion doesn't allow me to do this. Oh, they say, your religion doesn't allow you to do this? Pardon us. I hope we didn't offend you. We don't ask people to violate their religion. Really? You don't? He's the emperor. What do you mean you don't? And let's say his religion says he shouldn't do it. Let him go live in Siberia. Oh, he's going to be right at the king's gate, and Haman's going to go by every morning because he goes in as prime minister, and every morning he's going to stand there while everybody else is bowing down, right in your face. And they tolerate that because, after all, that's his religion, you see. And we don't interfere with people's religion. This is not a man who's running a kingdom, Putin knows how to run a kingdom. His enemies somehow mysteriously fall off the roof, or they end up poisoned, because... Okay, so now they're devising a test. Let's see, this is what Mordechai says his reason is. Is he telling the truth? Maybe he's doing this to spite Haman, and he's just using this as an excuse? Or maybe he has some other reason. Let's do a test. Hayamdu divrei Mordechai. They're going to do a test. They told to Haman to see whether his words would stand, for he told them he's a Jew. So, when Haman himself saw that Mordechai did not bow down and prostrate himself before him, then Haman was filled with rage. Because he comes into the square, and everyone in the square goes down. Does he know that Mordechai's there? Does he see that Mordechai does or does not go down? He's walking past with his nose in the air, with his eyes in the clouds. This riffraff is beneath my dignity to even notice them. But other people noticed, and other people told him, and they told him his excuse. So he said, let's see. If I come into the square, which is, let's say, 100 yards by 100 yards, a square football field, everybody goes down, and Mordechai doesn't go down, it could be that his religion prohibits it. But we'll see what happens if I walk up next to him. I know his religion doesn't prohibit that. How do we know that? Anybody know? How do you know it's not prohibited to prostrate yourself in front of another human being?
King.
Who? Say again?
Jacob and Esau.
Well, first of all, how about Yaakov and Esau? Even though there's under pressure there, but Yaakov, we saw, bowed down 7 times before he reached Esau. But there's an even more dramatic example.
The brothers?
The brothers they prostrate. You mean the brothers? You mean the children? Which was it?
The brothers with Yosef.
Oh, when he's in Egypt.
Yeah, when they think he's.
Okay, but all right. That's okay. But there's an even more dramatic example. Moses prostrates himself to his father-in-law. To his father-in-law, Yisro. Moses is a king. Excuse me. So it's obvious that it's not prohibited to show honor and respect to another human being by prostrating himself to another human being. So Muhammad says, let's do a little test. If I walk into the square and everybody goes down because of the king's command, and he says, I can't do that because of my religion, okay, that might be true. But if I walk up next to him, and everybody's supposed to show respect to me, respect. Moses showed respect to someone who was vastly inferior to him. And he did show respect. If he doesn't bow down then he's a liar. He's a liar. It has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with... Okay, now, I want to tell you something which is going to become useful later. There are differences of opinion about what Haman did and what he was. I know three opinions. There may be more that I'm ignorant of. One is that he wore a statue of an idol around his neck. Another is that he claimed some kind of divine status for himself. Those are two where it would be forbidden to bow down to Haman, close to him, far from him, from a mountaintop. You wouldn't be able to do that. But there's a third opinion that there was no idol worship involved at all. It was just a political law. That's all. So on those grounds, you have this scenario that we're setting up here, that he can test it this way. So watch this. When Haman himself saw that Mordechai did not bow down and prostrate himself before him, Haman was filled with rage. However, it seemed contemptible to him to lay hands on Mordechai alone, for they had made known to him the people of Mordechai. This is that's a high-class performance here, right? Mordechai doing something which puts him in a rage, but he's a Jew. A Jew. You're going to go after a Jew? People are going to tell you, you're like someone who goes after a dandelion. I mean, a Jew bothers you? Jews? They're beneath contempt, they're nonsense, they're nothing. Why pay attention? Why do you even notice it? Jew to you should be like a termite. So he's angry, he wants to take revenge, but he's conscious of the fact that he will degrade himself if he goes after Mordechai individually. So, what to do? He's going to get revenge, but he can't do it openly. So Haman sought to destroy all the Jews who were throughout the entire kingdom of Achashverosh, the people of Mordechai. If I can go after the whole of the Jewish people, Mordechai will die also. That's what I want. And then I will look like I'm doing something that has political basis to it, some kind of security basis to it. There's a whole group of people here who are a fifth column. I'll make up a story and we'll manage. So, he wants to undertake this. And the first thing that he does, the first month, which is the month of Nisan, that's when these events are taking place, in the 12th year of Achashverosh, Pur, that is the lot. So here it is again. Pur. Oh, you don't know what a Pur is. Oh, I almost forgot. You're Hebrew speakers. That's why we wrote the book in Hebrew. And I put the Persian word in. Sorry, I'll translate it for you. It's a lot. Thanks a lot. Why did you put Purim? Leave it out and write it like the rest of the book in Hebrew. In Hebrew, right. Who needs to put the Persian? And it's not just Stam. The name of the holiday comes from this word. Something very strange is going on here. It's Pur in Persian, and the ending is the plural in Hebrew, Purim. I don't think that's the ending from Persian. And it says this over and over again. Was cast in the presence of Haman from day to day, from month to month, to the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. So, as a matter of fact, he also cast it for the day, and the day was was the 13th. And that was the day that was set aside for the destruction of the Jewish people. Now, you may have heard, and if you didn't, you will hear, that when he cast the lot on the month, it came out to be Adar, he was very happy. Now, why was he happy? It's now Nisan. Adar is the 12th month, thank you. A long time from now. He's not going to get it right away. Yeah, but Adar has something special. What does Adar have?
Moshe's
Moshe died in Adar. The leader of the Jewish people died in Adar. That's a good month for me. I'm sorry?
He was born on that day also, right?
Well, the Chazal say he didn't know that he was born in Adar. And he didn't know that, from day to day and so forth and so on. So I heard now from my Charusa, an astonishing Chasam Sofer, what day in Adar was Moshe Rabbeinu born on? The 7th of Adar. That's tomorrow, by the way. If you daven in the right kind of shul, you won't say Tachana. Because it's the yard site of Moshe Rabbeinu. But he got the 13th of Adar. So why didn't that bother him? So the Chasam Sofer says, because when God promises tzaddikim that he will fulfill their days so that they'll come out with a round number of years with no extra days, that goes by the solar calendar, not by the lunar calendar. And Moshe Rabbeinu lived to be 120 years. So it's a 19-year cycle. So he's in the middle of a cycle. And if you take the day which he was born, and then that day in the solar cycle of that year that he died, it's the 13th, not the 9th. So really, he did get his days fulfilled because of the solar calendar. And then Haman, knowing this, said, "Look, my lots came out the right month and the right day for the very date in which he died. So then that's got to be fortuitous, as we say." Now, okay, we say he died on the 7th of Adar. Anyway, that's what he says. Now, you all know the end of the story. He doesn't survive this battle, Haman. But here's the second example of his using his strategy to determine his plan, and he's happy because it comes out at a time that he thinks is fortuitous to him, and in truth, it's going to destroy him. That's the second time, right? The first one was Mordechai hiding the fact that she had the blood of the kings in her, which would have saved her, and he wanted to save her by hiding it. By hiding it, he made her queen, and then her being queen was good, entirely the opposite of what Mordechai thought. So this is a theme that carries out in the Megillah. Okay, so now, how to do it? Haman said to Achashverosh, "There is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your realm." Let's see, scattered abroad and dispersed. What could dispersed mean after being told that they're scattered abroad? Doesn't scattered mean dispersed? That's why the commentators say that the second word doesn't refer to geographical separation. It refers to the fact that there was no unanimity among them. You'll probably have to use your imaginations to imagine a situation where the Jewish population has different ideas and they're split and they have different policies and maybe sometimes they disagree with one another vociferously and aggressively. You have to use your imaginations to figure that out. But that's the way it was in those times. So the first thing that Haman says is there's a people who are scattered and internally disunified among all the peoples of your realm. Their laws are different from every other people's. They do not observe even the king's laws. Therefore, it is not befitting the king to tolerate them. If it pleases the king, let recorded them be destroyed. Now, I want to pay attention here to Haman's appeal to Achashverosh. He has three things to say about these people. The third is let them be destroyed. How does he build up? How does he justify that they should be destroyed? Well, number one, they're scattered geographically. Number two, they're internally disunified. Number three, they don't follow the laws of any of the other nations in your realm. If you stop there, so what? That's a reason to destroy them? Because they're different? Because they're scattered? You don't go around scattering, all the things that are different. Oh, Your Majesty, I'm coming to the climax. They don't keep your laws either. Oh, I hear that, Haman. I hear that. They don't keep my laws. But what is the buildup? If they don't keep the king's laws, does it matter that they're scattered? Does it matter that they're dispersed? Does it matter that they're different from the other people? They're violating the law. Off with their heads. 1 second. 1 second. Off with their heads. Why is he doing it this way? Why do you think that Haman is presenting it to Achashverosh in this fashion? To whom is he playing here? What feature of Achashverosh, which we have mentioned and stressed, is at play here that explains the way in which he puts his proposition?
So there's a running theme throughout this that his rule is unsolidified. He's afraid of potentially angering various provinces or real powers that are disparate that he rules over. If the Jewish people are dispersed and they're ununified, they're easy pickings, they're not a real threat to his control. And his other trait of not liking disobedience, he can act on that part of himself without worrying about this other part of him that is in fear of rebellion.
Very well put. I think that's exactly right. He's afraid of losing common favor. He's afraid of stepping on toes. He would be afraid that this group has allies. So he says they themselves are geographically dispersed. It's easy to pick them off, and they're disunified. They won't be able to resist, and all the other peoples despise them because they don't follow any of the laws of all the other peoples. It's an entirely safe proposition. If he doesn't say this way, if he says to the king, there are people breaking your laws and you ought to go after them, the king is going to be very cautious. He's not going to jump at that. Who are they? Where are they? Who are their allies? What part do they play in the kingdom? He's setting him up. This is a completely defenseless and useless and despised community. Okay, I hear that. And by the way, they don't keep your law, so you should kill them. Oh, gotcha, I'm on board. But here, again, he's playing to Achashverosh's weakness. It's a theme which doesn't stop. And I will pay 10,000 silver talents into the hands of those who perform the duties for deposit in the king's treasuries. Now, I told you that when Achashverosh threw his party, he wanted to demonstrate his wealth so as to communicate to the population, I can't be bought. I'm independent. So if I have good purposes and policies for you, no one's going to buy me off, then change my mind. And here, Haman is offering money. So either he's just making a mistake, like Mordechai made a mistake, or he's got some intention that I don't really understand, because as you will see, the king will refuse the money, and refuse it like, it's defiled. Don't sully me with that. So, the king took his signet ring from his hand, gave it to Haman, son of Hadassah, the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. Now it makes it even stronger. You could read it, though the Midrashim don't read it this way, but you could read it. He became the enemy of the Jews. It does say above, they told him Mordechai's people. Now, the Midrashim tell us there's a whole background here. We knew Mordechai, he was Mordechai's slave, and so on and so on. So it's not clear exactly what it means when it says they told him, the people of Mordechai. At any rate, you could say that he came to hate them because of this. Now, what does it mean to take off his ring? Well, decrees were written, and then they were sealed by putting hot wax, soft wax, and then putting the signet ring in, and leaving it. A signet ring was carved in a certain way, so that the relief of the ring made a signature in the wax, and that's how you knew it came from the king. So if he gives him his signature, he can write whatever he wants, and it will be the king's decree because the signet ring seals it. Then the king said to Haman, "The silver is given to you." I don't want any contact with it. The people also to do with them as you see fit. You are my prime minister. I've agreed to the policy. You carry it out. The king's secretaries were summoned on the 13th day of the first month. 13th day of the first month. That's exactly 11 months before the date of the destruction. And everything was written exactly as Haman dictated. to the king's satrap, to the governors of every province, the officials of every people. So far, it says that the books, the scrolls are going to the officials. Each province its own script, each people its own language. In Achashverosh's name it was written. That's important because Haman is writing it. And it was sealed with the king's signet ring, which is on Haman's hand. Letters were sent by courier to all the king's provinces to destroy, to slay, and to exterminate all Jews, young and old, children and women, in a single day. The 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, and to plunder their possessions. Now, the next word is a Greek word, pashegel aksav. They write copies. We'll see that maybe that should be understood in a certain way. Were to be promulgated in every province, they be published to all the peoples. They should be ready for that day. So you see, 14 is a little bit of a puzzle. We've been told that he wrote out documents and had them sent to the officials. Now we're being told something or other was written and promulgated, publicized to the peoples, not to the officials, to the peoples. If you pay careful attention to the details, it sounds like it's two different projects. Now, what would be in the content of the first one was to destroy, to slay, and exterminate all Jews, young and old, children and women, in a single day. In 14, what is the content of this second thing? They should be ready for that day. So the Malbim says exactly this. There were two different documents. The one that went out in public, which is up on the wall posters and everything else, is like this new style of advertising, which I guess is now like 10 or 15 years old. You see these things on the buses and on the signposts, a big poster with a big black dot, and the words are, "Black dot coming." So, yeah, really? What's it going to do with it? Details next week. That catches your attention, and you're waiting for next week to get explanation of what the thing meant. It's exactly what's going on here. What was on the wall posters was, put the date in your calendar, the 13th of Adar. Save that date. For what? Details are coming. Details are coming. The people didn't know. The people didn't know what the decree was. Only the officials know. And the officials knew and they kept it secret. That's where we're holding now. And that double opinion will explain the next few psukim, which definitely need explanation, because otherwise it doesn't make sense. Yeah.
So when it says that so that it should be ready for that day, it refers to the people being ready for that day.
It says they should be ready. Yeah, not it. They should.
Because for a moment I read that actually they would put all the documents on that day, but it's not that. Like
They put all the documents. I don't know what those words mean.
I think it's just not the right way to read it. Let's say the 13th of Adar, they would put all around the city. Okay, today this is happening.
No.
No.
Yeah, makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, when I
Makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do we know exactly that the officials kept it secret?
How do we know what?
How do we know that the officials kept it secret?
Oh, I'll show it to you in a second. So, by the way, we have to ask, if it's now the 13th of Nisan, and the event is going to take place on the 13th of Adar in 11 months, what's Haman's hurry?
In case the king changes his mind.
Say again?
In case the king changes his mind.
Yeah. What happens if the king changes his mind? Once the decrees are sent out, he can't change his mind, as you will see. It is a law of the kingdom. No decree which is dispatched can be rescinded.
So what's he worried about, you're saying?
I'm sorry?
So you're saying what's he worried about if the king...
On the other way around. Once it's sent out, then it can't be taken back.
Right, so...
But if he doesn't send it out, it's not a decree yet.
Oh, so he's hurrying to send it out, you're saying?
That's what I asked, and you answered. So in case he changes his mind, I'm crediting your answer. This way he can't change his mind. Once a decree is sent out and publicized, or sent to whoever it's going to, then it cannot be taken back. That's why when they finally get the favor of the king, and Esther says, and let the decree of Haman, the wicked Haman, be rescinded, king says, sorry, can't do that. Cannot do that. You can write a new decree if you like, and that's fine, but you can't take it back. Once it goes out, you can't take it back. And why is that? I mean, if you think sensibly about it, it's an absolutely necessary rule. He has 127 provinces. He's going to send a decree, whether it's publicized or not. It says all the provinces. How long does that take? We're going to find out. It takes 6 weeks on the fastest animals that there are. If a decree could be rescinded, you who are 4 weeks travel from the capital never know whether you should keep it or not. Because maybe next week somebody's going to come with a contradiction and say it isn't true. You've got to have stability and you've got to have credibility. Therefore, there's a rule. Once it's sent out, it's finished. Nothing can take it back. Yeah.
Does the fact that he decided the destruction of the Jews by lot support the argument or interpretation that he was an idol worshiper, or that maybe Mordecai was objecting to him on that basis?
No, he certainly was an idol worshiper. I think that's no question about that. But there's no prohibition against bowing down to an idol worshiper. You can't bow down to an idol. There's no prohibition against an idol worshiper. It's just, George from down the street, yeah.
Why did Haman gain so much favor in King Ahasuerus to become to get the ring and have so much control?
So you weren't here yesterday, were you?
I was here.
Huh?
I was here.
Yeah. So if he's Mamuchan, the one who gave him the strategy, the spin, the misogynist spin of how to get out of the Vashti problem, then he earned a lot. He gave him a very, very valuable piece of advice, which gave him a great success. I assume he did other things as well, but that was really quite spectacular. Now you'll see why I told you what I told you. The courier was 15. The couriers went forth hurriedly by order of the king, meaning through Haman, and the edict was distributed in Shushan, the capital. Edict. What was distributed? What went up in public in all the other places as the messengers got there? Be ready for the 13th of Adar. Wall posters everywhere. Be ready for the 13th of Adar.
How do you know that that's the edict? Why isn't the edict to kill all the Jews?
I'll show you. The king and Haman sat down to drink, and the city of Shushan was bewildered. Really? Just bewildered? Golly, what's happening? If they had seen the decree to destroy all the Jews, they wouldn't have been bewildered. They'd have been in panic, as they're going to be in a panic in 3 verses. Because Mordecai knows what happened, but nobody else knows what happened, which is the next verse. They're just bewildered, and especially you have to put yourself in a mental set of this, what's going on here. This is the capital city. People in the capital city know things. Things get around. These decrees had to be written by the special scribes, So, and the special scribes have friends, and they're paid off to give advance notice to people who it's important for, so on and so on. And this goes up, and nobody knows why. That's bewildering in the capital. Usually in the capital, the rumors before it happens, and confirmation of rumors or contradictory rumors. People are buzzing about it, and here there's nothing. Okay, now, chapter 4. Mordecai learned of all that had been done, and Mordecai tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes, went out into the city, crying loudly and bitterly. Only Mordecai knew. So it couldn't have been publicized. It had to be secret.
Why is it only?
What? It says he.
It doesn't say only.
Oh, come. You're not being serious now.
I am.
Because he alone is crying and everybody else is just bewildered? Why aren't they all coming to him and saying, Mordecai, we're dead? Come. Sorry, that's not serious. Yeah.
So the edict you're saying that went out into Shushan and the capital, right?
Yeah.
Is the edict the copy of the document that was sent to all the provinces, not the official.
Okay, so,
Senate.
okay, right. So now that's why I said, when we got to that word, I said the word is a Persian word in the Hebrew, which is pashegen. And I said maybe the word copy will have to be understood a little bit differently. I said that 3.5 minutes ago. And now you understand why. Because the secret document has one content, and this pashegen has a different content. So to use the word copy in English isn't quite right. According to this pshat, it isn't quite right. It's about the same event, but the words are very, very different. One gives detailed instructions to destroy all the Jews, and the other says, all the peoples, the cab drivers and the camel drivers, all of you be ready for the 13th of Adar, and details coming later. And that's what went out in Shushan, and that's why the city was bewildered. Nobody had a clue, Jews and everybody else. Mordecai somehow knew. He knew it was a disaster. He's tearing his clothes and crying in the streets, and people come to him and say, what's happening? And he tells them.
Bewildered meaning like they are just at a loss. They don't know what's happening.
Exactly.
They're confused.
Exactly. And as I said,
No information.
that's right. And you have to compound this because you're talking about the people in the capital city. People in the capital city, usually rumors go out and people know and people have paid informants and so forth and so on.
So it's confusion. Chaos.
Here, there's confusion because something happened and they had no warning beforehand, and they have no understanding of it.
You're saying they're kind of hearing glimpses of this edict. Because in the capital.
No, again, let me say it again. It's getting confused. There were two documents.
Yeah.
One document was sent, copies to the officials and only the officials. That document was sent to the officials,
Right.
said all the Jews are going to be killed.
Right.
That was kept secret.
Yeah.
That was only the officials. The second document went out into the wall posters and into the gymnasiums and into the cafeterias all over. The 13th of Adar is special. Prepare for that day in 11 months. Set it aside on your calendar. Details to follow. But maybe we're all going skiing. Who knows what it is? No one has a clue, right? Now, you put up this second one in Shushan, the capital. The 13th of Adar is a special day. Be ready. And they never heard anything about it. No news or information. They are bewildered, which is very natural, right? Only Mordecai knew. He responded to it as a death threat, but only he knew. Yeah.
But it says here, in every province, wherever the king's command and his decree extended, there was great mourning among the Jews. How did Mordecai reach every single province and all of the Jews, like in roughly
The same way that the messages reached.
He's got some real pull.
Well, he could have used SMS, but maybe some of the Jews didn't have cell phones. No, travel that way was communication was by travel, and I don't know if it was simultaneous. They rode on the fastest animal transportation that there was, or maybe he had his own fast animal transportation. I don't know, but the king's promulgation reached, and his information to the Jewish people reached, and they're all crying and praying and praying. But it takes time. The Megillah now is going to go on to explain what happened in Shushan. You have to understand this statement is something which was carried out over weeks and wasn't immediate at the time of the events that take place in Shushan. The following events are based only on the Jewish community in Shushan. As you'll see, it takes only 3 days to get to the basic end of the story. Yeah.
Why are the officials in Shushan and other who usually are accept money to release information? Why would they keep it secret now?
No. The official doesn't want to give it over. He's told by the king to keep it a secret. On the contrary, he may be in trouble if it gets out.
Okay.
Wow.
Usually he's not.
I'm talking now about other people finding out.
No, I understand. I'm saying
They-
usually when things come out, the rich people, whatever, in the capital know because they have paid informants or whatever, right? That's the
Right.
usual case.
But here, in this case, they were told to keep it secret. And if it gets out at all, and it's in his province, and he's the official in charge, it's going to be trouble. And after all, Mordecai Haman knows very well, if it gets out, then the Jews could take measures. They could prepare themselves. 11 months is a long time. You can court allies. You can make new alliances. You can fix your internal problems. 11 months is a long time. So of course he wants to keep it secret. He's walking a fine line. He sends out the decrees so that the king can't change his mind. But on the other hand, he wants to keep it secret from the Jews. That's his plan. And here, because Mordechai knew, that part was upset. Yeah.
Could Mordechai have known that it was his fault? Or could he have inferred that it was his fault that this started?
Could Mordechai have known that?
It was because of him that this whole thing started.
Why do you think it was because of Mordechai that it started?
Because he didn't bow down to the...
Oh, that. The truth is, he's only helping. He's not causing any problems. But could he know? I think he could eventually know, because those people who approached him and told him not to bow down, asked him why he didn't bow down. Oh, I'm sorry. No, he could definitely know. He could definitely know. But you see, here, I'll just give you a question to meditate on. Just let me ask this question. The name of the holiday is what?
Accounting?
Purim. Why would the name of the holiday be the name of the instrument that Haman used to determine the date of the destruction? Is that what the holiday's about? Is that its theme? That he used lots to pick the date of the destruction? Why is that the name of the holiday? You meditate on that. And the answer to it comes from there. Okay. Yeah.
How do we have a source from how Mordechai knew about the...
No, I don't know of any source of how he knew. Ruach HaKodesh certainly would be available to him. Or someone who, like one of the people who wrote it out, who had maybe close to him, leaked it to him. I don't know. Maybe it's in the Midrashim. As I told you, I'm not really conversant with the Midrashim, except for the tiny few that I've seen. Yeah.
So I know that pretty much the fact that there are two interpretations, whether Haman created himself as pretty much an idol, or pretty much he was wearing an idol. That's midrash. But could we infer from the text that says that Mordecai didn't prostrate himself or bow? And I tried to take a look at other times where you see people bow, and it just says bow, as opposed to prostrate themselves and bow, like in from the text, that it was some sort of idol worship or something like that?
No, because the same word of prostrating is used when he bows to Yisro, to his father-in-law.
Because here it says prostrating and bowing, as opposed to, at least from what I saw with Jacob and Esau and the brothers with Yosef, it just says bowing. I didn't check with Yisro, but... Yeah.
Well, here, the truth is, now that you mention it, it says, Lo yichrav, lo yishtachav. Yeah. Now, it's a little funny. I really don't understand it now, because yichra is the lesser motion. Yishtachav is the greater motion.
Okay.
So to say, he wouldn't do the little, and not even that, and he wouldn't even do the big, is a very funny thing to say. Now, when Yisro comes,
Yeah, sorry if I derailed it a little bit.
No, it's all right. Yeah, it says Vayishtachavu. So he uses the greater one. Ishtachavoya usually means what's called Pisuk Yadayim Raglayim. Flat down on your face with the legs and arms spread out.
Okay.
What's the meaning of Ishtachavoya? What does it mean to prostrate yourself? I'm totally at your mercy. I'm lying on my face with my hands and legs spread out, nothing in my hands. I'm totally at your mercy. You can shoot me, you can do anything to me, you lock me up. I'm totally defenseless. Greetings work like that. Why do we shake hands? Nothing in my hand. Nothing in my hand. No knife in my hand, nothing in my hand. Why do Native Americans greet each other this way? Same thing. Same thing. Nothing in my hand. Why, when you have a bow and arrow, if that's your weaponry, you greet people, you take the bow, and you turn it around so that you're holding the curved part of the bow, and the string faces the other guy. Why? Because I can't shoot at you. These are all symptoms of peaceable intention. That's why they're used that way. But hashtachavoy is very, very dramatic. You're face down, hands are spread out, with your face down. What can you do? Nothing. Nothing. Putting myself in your hands. Okay.